Hello and welcome to Focus. Today we look at the religious future and business prospects of the Unification Church, famous for mass weddings, as it mourns the death of its leader earlier this month. Reverend Myung leaves behind a global empire said to be worth billions of dollars and several children to run it, but there have been reports of infighting among the heirs. So what impact might that have on the businesses, and can the church hold on to its worldwide followers without the self-proclaimed Messiah? In a moment, I'll be speaking to our correspondent Michael Penn, but first, this report.
Thousands of roses and tears. The funeral for the head of the Unification Church, the Reverend Myung in South Korea, was much like the man himself, grandiose and excessive. Since his death, almost 20,000 followers have come to the church's headquarters in Gapyeong, near Seoul, to pay their respects.
We had to limit the number of visitors per country. If we had let everyone come, the planes would have been full, and we would have had a problem handling the ceremony.
Moon, a self-proclaimed messiah who died at the age of 92, leaves behind a huge financial empire and spiritual legacy. The church claims 3 million followers from 194 countries, who have pledged to continue the work of a man they consider their true father. In many cases, he even conducted their wedding ceremonies.
He matched my parents together, and so I was born from their love, from their marriage. So I'm here because of Reverend Moon. I also went to a matching ceremony, and it was also Reverend Moon that picked my husband out for me.
His body has gone, but he remains alive in my life and in my heart.
On the surface, the succession should proceed smoothly, with Moon's seventh son expected to handle the church's spiritual affairs. His fourth son will oversee its financial interests, believed to total $2 billion. Bo Ui Park, the late Reverend's right-hand man and co-founder of the church's US branch, is confident about the future.
Do you know Gukjin Moon? That's the number 4 son. So under his guidance, our business is flourishing every day.
The only potential source of trouble is Hyun-jin Moon, the eldest son, who's been overlooked in the succession plans. Now embroiled in legal actions against his family, he was denied the opportunity to mourn his father in public.
We invited him. You and your wife and your children are always welcome. Come to take a bow to your own father. But he said, I cannot come in unless you allow me to take a dirty bodyguard. We said, that's a nonsense.
Associates of the eldest son say they regret the conflict inside the family.
If you want another reason why Hyun-jin Moon didn't want to go up to the palace in Cheongpyeong by himself, it's because he has suffered from a lot of bad faith from his siblings, sad to say.
The sibling rivalry seems out of place in a church that professes to value unity and reconciliation. It remains to be seen what effect it will have on the church now that its charismatic founder is dead.
And our correspondent in the region, Michael Penn, joins me now from Tokyo. Hello, Michael. First of all, how did a religious leader, a man sometimes called Loony Mooney, whose father was a peasant, get so rich?
Well, it turns out that he's not just a religious leader. He was a very, very shrewd businessman. Not only did he get contributions from his followers, but he turned out to be very good at making investments and making contacts with powerful people. So he was a very clever man, and this talent that he had showed up in many fields of business.
And what businesses are we talking about then?
Oh, we're talking about many things. It became a multi-billion-dollar enterprise, investing in all kinds of things, from media such as the Washington Times to arms factories to he even controlled one of the major industrial enterprises in Korea, one of their industrial groups. So the types of investments that he made really spanned the gamut of many things.
Now tell us more about the family feud and the impact it and the Reverend's death are having on the church and the business side of things.
Well, yes, this is a big question. Looking forward, what happens to a movement like this after its very charismatic founder, a man who was the Messiah according to the beliefs of this religion, What happens to it now? Can his young son step into the role? Well, from what we hear, the young man who has taken over, his seventh son, is very charismatic, and he does seem to have the ability to perform well in his function. He's much more American educated than his father was. But on the other hand, he is the youngest son. And so you must imagine that all of the older sons who got passed over must feel a certain amount of jealousy about the role that he's taken over. So it's very clear that with so much money and power and influence basically at stake, there's a lot of scope for infighting and rivalry.
So do you think then that members will respect him, the youngest son, as their new leader?
Well, that's the big question. You know, can he gain the respect not just of the regular followers, but of his own older family members and of, let's say, the executives and the business leaders within the movement? To start out, he seems to be on to start out okay, but over time it'll become clear whether or not the young man has enough clout within the movement to really hold it together. And this is the big question mark that faces them at this moment.
Now, how did the Unification Church manage to gain so many followers across the world, and do you think it can hold on to them still?
Well, from what we understand, the movement itself doesn't give figures on how many followers it has, and there's quite a bit of debate about how many people are involved in the Unification Church. The general perception is that in the 1970s and 1980s they were probably at their height, and in more recent decades they've been declining in terms of the number of followers. Now that the Messiah of their movement has passed away, the question is how many of those who have been in the movement will continue to stick with it, and can they indeed expand and spread? And different analysts have different opinions on this, but as we said, in the early stages at least, it seems like the succession has been handled relatively smoothly, and the young man does seem to have his own degree of charisma. So it does seem that they will be going for some time yet.
Michael Penn, thank you very much indeed. Thank you for watching. That's it for Focus. Do stay tuned to France 24.